Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Which of the following differences between debt and equity are correct? In debt, the maturity is for a fixed period, whereas in equity, it is mostly undetermined. In debt, the returns are calculated by dividend increase in the price, whereas in equity, it is by coupon rate. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference in this article. Let us try and understand what is the difference between the debt as well as the equity. One of the example of debt can be the bond. What is a bond? Let's say we have the government. The government issues the bond. The government can release the bond. We can also have a corporate entity as well, which can also release a bond. What would happen in a bond or a debt instrument is there is a creditor. This creditor will give an amount to that particular government agency or to a corporate entity for a period of time. Let's say it is about 10 years. For this 10 years, the government or the corporate entity will pay interest annually, or it can be month-wise as well. But after a scheduled period of time, that premium amount is paid back to the creditor. That is what is debt instrument. And when it comes to equity, what is an equity? Let's say we have one of the company. In the present situation, let's take the example of Zomato. What will Zomato do? It will be registered with the SEBI. It will go to SEBI, give all the red prospectus hearings and all the documents, so on and so forth. And ultimately, it will ask the people for some money. So it will go public in nature. So when it is equity, the person who is taking the share or the stock will have to get the dividend, or there'll be an increase in the price as well. So when it comes to the debt, what they get is the coupon rate or the interest. But when it comes to equity, what they get is the dividend paid by that particular company, which is the profit for that particular company, as these people have given money to the investor to expand and also generate revenue for their company. So when it comes to equity, the person is buying the share of that particular company. When it comes to debt, he just acts as a creditor. When it comes to debt, what is being paid is the coupon rate or the interest. When it comes to equity, what they get is dividend or the profit. So when it comes to equity, they are owned capital. When it comes to debt, it is a borrowed capital. When it comes to the return, what we have is a volatile return when it comes to the equity. Why? Because you can sell it immediately, or you can sell it after 10 years, or you can sell it for like 1 year. So it depends on when you sell when it comes to the equity. But when it comes to the debt, it is a fixed period, which means there is a timeline that is given after which the premium amount is given back to the creditor. When you look into this particular article, it also makes a mention of what is called as initial public offer. What is this initial public offer? Let's say we have one of the companies, Zomato. In the present situation, when all of us are hungry, we do order from Zomato. So this particular company is now going public. Until now, it was being conducted by the venture capitalists and the shareholders of that particular company. But now they are going public, which means they'll be registered with the SEBI and they'll be issuing shares to the public. So the public would be able to own them. So when a company is going out and issuing the shares for the very first time, that is what is called as initial public offering. Zomato would be initiating this IPOs for the very first time, where a prescribed date will be given by Zomato. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements about Sir Chetur Shankaran Nair. He had served as the president of the Indian National Congress. Shankaran Nair was an advocate who defended Bhagat Singh. Which of the above statements is correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article in the Indian Express makes a mention of Sir Chetur Shankaran Nair. When we look into the statement, the first statement is right. He was the president of the Indian National Congress during the period 1897. When it comes to the second statement, this is wrong statement. Why? Shankaran Nair was the lawyer or an advocate who wanted to uncover the truth when it comes to Jallianwala Bagh massacre. As part of assignment, you have to read Who was the advocate who represented Bhagat Singh? Was there an advocate, if at all, who represented, or Bhagat Singh fought his own case? Do read about it and put it on the comment section. Who was the advocate who defended Bhagat Singh, or it was Bhagat Singh who defended himself? Please put it on the comment section. Now, if we have to speak about Chetur Shankaran Nair, he was an advocate. He also wanted to bring large-scale reforms in the society, and as a judge of the Madras High Court, he did come up with some landmark and beautiful judgments as well. Since he had a reformist nature in himself, he also accepted for the fact that people from other religion, if they converted back to Hinduism, they need not be considered as outcasts. Indeed, he also supported the very idea of intercaste marriages as well. He supported the idea of interreligious marriages as well. Such was his nature that he wanted to bring a social reform during those periods. He also had a lot of differences with Mahatma Gandhiji as well. Gandhiji had a simple philosophy of non-violence. He also had the philosophy of civil disobedience and non-cooperation as well. For all these ideas espoused by Mahatma Gandhi, what we have is that Mr. Nair did not accept all these points, and he went on to say that such practices indeed may mislead the country and in fact may lead to riots and bloodshed in that particular region. So he also had differences with Gandhiji as well. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following pairs. We have the portal unveiled by the Government of India on one side and the objective that it is supposed to serve. We have Amar, which is a portal which says online public access catalog for more than 12,000 Indian medical heritage books. E-Meda showcases inscriptions, archaeobotanical information, advanced archaeogenetic studies. Shai, it speaks about digitized information on rare and hard to find manuscripts and catalogs of Ayurveda. Which of the above pairs are correctly matched? The answer to this is, take a pause, put it on the comment section, and now the answer would be none. Why? That is because when you speak about Amar, Amar basically is standing for Ayush Manuscripts Advanced Repository Portal. What is this portal all about? This is where we would be able to get digitized information on rare and hard to find manuscripts and catalogs of Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, Saurikpa in the libraries or in the individual collections across the India. So those manuscripts which are traditionally not available will be digitized and will be provided on this portal called as Amar portal. Then what we have is eMeda, where it stands for Electronic Medical Heritage Accession Portal, where the online public access catalog for more than 12,000 Indian medical heritage books through the NIC's eGranthalaya platform. Finally, what we have is SHAI, which stands for Showcase of Ayurveda Historical Imprints Portal, where this portal would showcase inscriptions, archaeobotanical information, sculptures, philological sources, and advanced archaeogenetic studies. So these portals that have been unveiled by the Government of India will help us understand the knowledge of the indigenous healthcare system. So when you look into these options, all the three statements are wrong. That is why the answer to this would be none. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to organization of the petroleum exporting countries, which of the following statements are correct? OPEC has its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. Venezuela is the only country from South America which is part of OPEC. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article makes a mention of OPEC. What is this OPEC? This is one of the organizations which stands for Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. What is the objective of this particular organization? There is twofold objective. One is the production of the oil, control the price rise, and ultimately ensure that there is continuous production and supply to the people of different parts of the world. So basically, one is about production, manage how this whole process works, ensure that there is stability when it comes to the oil production, and after all this is done, plan this particular policy so that there is no friction between the countries, and after the production is done, they ensure that there is supply of these oil resources to multiple countries across different continents. So the main objectives include: one is to prepare the policy among the member countries to achieve stable prices, and in order to do so, they come together, discuss among them, build a consensus so that people would get regular supply of petroleum for their own consumption. So when you look into the OPEC members, what we have is Algeria, Angola, UAE, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Republic of Congo, Libya, Nigeria, Kuwait, Iran, Iraq, Gabon, and Equatorial Guinea. Added to this, it is not headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. It was headquartered there, but currently it is in Vienna, Austria. Also remember, this intergovernmental organization was created at the Baghdad Conference in the year 1960 by Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. Currently, it has 13 members. Ecuador was part of this OPEC, but it is no more part of this organization. Now, let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. Climate and Clean Air Coalition to reduce short-lived climate pollutants is a unique initiative of G20 group of countries. The CCAC focuses on methane, black carbon and hydrofluorocarbons. Which of the statements given above is or correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why? When you look into the first statement, it is not an initiative of the G20 group of countries. Why? Because this was launched by the United Nations Environmental Programme, supported by about 6 countries. This includes Bangladesh, Canada, Ghana, Mexico, Sweden, and United States of America back in the year 2012. So kindly remember, this is not a coalition of G20 countries coming together, but instead these 6 countries come together and they created this coalition. What was this coalition all about? The coalition came together basically to reduce the short-lived climate pollutants. What are these short-lived climate pollutants? These pollutants may live in the atmosphere, let's say for a day, or for a week, or even for an year as well. Some of the examples of this include methane, black carbon and hydrofluorocarbons. So in order to fight the menace of these dangerous air pollutants and to mitigate the impact that it would have on health, agriculture and ecosystems, these countries came up and created Climate and Clean Air Coalition. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2017. Now let me issue a clarification from yesterday's fact of the day. The topic that we discussed as part of fact of the day is Nipun Bharat, and I did say that it is less than 3 years of the child. I regret, this is a mistake from my side. It is not less than 3 years of the child, but it is for those children who are in the 3rd grade and less than that. So for those students who are in 3rd grade, they have to improvise on the foundational literacy and numeracy. So making sure that a particular child who is in 1st standard, 2nd standard and 3rd standard understands the foundational alphabets and numbers is the objective of this particular mission. Now let's discuss today's fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is National Mission for Clean Ganga. As the very name denotes, this particular mission has 2 objectives. One is to reduce the pollution in and around the Ganga river, and at the same time make sure that there is ecological flow in this particular river. As we all know, Ganga is one of the sacred rivers in India, but it also has the tag of being one of the most polluted rivers in India as well. To prevent pollution and also to ensure that there is ecological flow, that is the minimum amount of water does flow in this particular river, ensuring water quality and environmental sustainability are the 2 major objectives of the National Mission for Clean Ganga. What is happening in and around Ganga? Ganga flows through number of states in India. It also has industries in and around it. These industries also have their waste as well. Ideally, the waste should be treated. They should not be dumped into the river, but this is not happening along the course of river Ganga. What do? They directly dump all the waste into this particular river. So the focus of this particular plan is to make sure that they intercept, divert and also treat all the wastewater that is emanating from the industries and also from open drains. So intercepting it, diverting it, cleaning it via the treatment plants, pioneering technology, sewage treatment plants, and ultimately effluent treatment plants is one of the objectives of this particular program. And to maintain the minimum ecological flow, we have to regenerate and maintain the natural vegetation in this particular region, and also make sure that the dam construction in and around this particular region are also minimized. To bring this into practice, we have the Ganga Action Plan, National River Conservation Plan, National River Ganga Basin Authority, a government cleanup campaign, so that all these ideas are fulfilled. It is this that we have to understand in reference to National Mission for Clean Ganga. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.